Got
Okay,
it.
guys. Well, this is Blake Nelson. I'm the chapter president this year, and I'd like to welcome you all here to our APR info session. I'm going to toss it back to Ann in just a minute, but I just wanted to say I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm an APR myself, and I was not a public relations major in college. So I pursued mine a few years into my career, and it meant the world to me. All of a sudden I was like, oh, the strategic planning process made a little more sense. And it was just very important and educational. And I go back to it all the time. My Glenn Broom book is still right near my bed, like where all my stuff is, like just pull it out just to remind myself, you know, the process, why we're doing it, everything like that. So I don't think it would be anything you would ever regret pursuing it. It's enabled me to build my own one-person business so I can still participate with my 3 little kids. And so I hope everyone will pursue it a little strongly and, you know, take it seriously, because it's just amazing. So you won't regret it. But thank you all for being here. And Ann, you're up.
Thank you, guys. I was hoping, Blake, that you would say Ann Buckley APR, because
I'm sorry.
That's okay. But what I want to do is, first off, thank you all for coming. It means the world to me that you're interested. It means the world to the profession that you're interested. When I say Ann Buckley, APR, I'm very intentional. I still use it to this day. It is on my door, you know, the name plaque over my door. And the 3 letters, they actually changed my professional self-perception. I, like Blake, public relations was not a major when I was in college. So I came up through journalism, which I loved. I had a very robust career at the Associated Press. But my love is more in the actual science of communications, and that's what the APR does. It shows you the science behind the art of what we do. I think not only did it change my professional self-perception, I think it arguably changed the trajectory of my career, because to me, it earned me a seat at the table, because without a very fluent understanding of the strategic planning process in communications and all of the other information that you glean going through this process, you're really just an order taker, not a menu creator, and you will be doomed to being tactical the rest of your life. So I'm glad you're here, and this probably won't take us an hour, because what I'd like to do is give you an overview of what how to get started. It seems very daunting at first, because first off, it's like, okay, I'm going to get my APR, and then 2 years pass, and it's like, okay, I'm going to wait till the right time in my life to get my APR. Okay, well, there's not going to be a right time in my life, so I might as well just do it. So that's why we're here. And so if I could share screen, Blake. Is she here?
I'm here. Sorry, I was on.
Oh, that's okay.
Let me let you.
All right.
Okay, can you do it now?
Let's see. Yes, I can.
All right.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let me get my first screen up here. This is, and I will put the links in our chat, but to get us started here, hold on. I want this screen here, desktop. Just bear with me, you all. All right, that's the questionnaire. That's not the one I wanted to share just now. Hold on. There we go. Accreditation process. Can you see my screen?
No.
Okay, hang on. I've been practicing this all day. I don't know why it's not working now, but we're going to stay here until it works. Hold on. Share screen. Here we go. Okay, this should work. All right. Again, this is on the PRSA website, and this little process chart is going to be your best friend. And I'll tell you why, because sometimes it's just easy to get lost in the process. And this will help outline it for you so that you know where you are and what you're doing and what order you're doing it, in what order you're doing it. So there's the link in there, that, again, the process chart. So you start the whole thing. Hi, Arturo, welcome. You start the process by actually filling out an application. You go into the PRSA website. You have to be a member. You fill out an online application, and it's $385. And what happens is then you'll get eligibility, that you'll get notice that you're eligible to participate. And there you go. You've got 1 year from that time to get through the process. And there are all sorts of resources available for you. But the first thing, and I am now going to skip over to step 3 because I did it in that order, and I think it's easier. So if the next thing you do, once they've told you that you're eligible, is go ahead and complete that candidate questionnaire. And I don't know if you can see this. You can download it now too, but I've tried to pull them all up on my screen for everybody so that you can see them. But the questionnaire itself, it sounds, there's a link here in this thing, but the questionnaire is, which screen is showing you all? I apologize. Is it still the process?
No, it's showing power up your professional life.
Okay, good. But anyway, so just a minute, you guys. So once you download your questionnaire, you need to understand that that is not a process that you just do in one evening, your questionnaire. It's going to ask you some really in-depth questions about your career track, what got you here, what's your interest, why this time in your life are you ready to do this? And then it will have you go in a word, with prose, walking them through in the evaluation a strategic communications plan that you have either led or had a good part in. And by sharing and answering those questions, it not only shows you the parts of a strategic plan, it shows you that you've been doing it. You're just not fully aware that that's what you have been doing. And it helps you put the pieces together. And it's also going to be the case that you take to your readiness review panel. So whatever project you choose to explain and use as your example in your questionnaire is the one you're going to have all of your collateral for, and your plan, and then all of the collateral you produced, what your tactics looked like, your metrics, how you evaluated it, and such. So once you've completed that questionnaire and submitted it, then you will start to, you'll get your panel, your panel presentation materials. It's a portfolio, and it's going to show the work you did on your plan. And when you've got that ready, you just give me a shout, and I will line you up with a presentation panel and with a time, and then you'll have, usually an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to present your plan, and then they will ask you questions about it. And their questions are not adversarial. They are on your team. They want you to succeed. They are going to, they're going to ask questions about what could you have done better, or what research did you wish you could have done that you didn't do, and this, that, and the other. And then they'll either pass you forward to sit for the exam, or say, you know what, you need to take a little bit more time before that. So once you've been passed through to sit for the exam, that to me is when you go back to step 2, and you start your studying. And there is a study guide online. Can you see that? The APR study guide? It's a fabulous,
yes, thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. It is a fabulous resource, I think. It is. I read that like a textbook. I actually printed it out because my kids did travel baseball. And so I made a notebook of this study guide, and it went all over Virginia, North Carolina, and Maryland with me, as did the textbook. You can pick any textbook you want. I highly recommend the Cutlip and Broom is called Effective Public Relations. And I believe Kim is on the line, Kim Calderon. She knows one of the authors personally. Kim, do you want to share real quick?
Oh, I grew up knowing Glenn Broom. His office was one floor below my father's when I was growing up, and Bailing Shaw, who is one of the current authors, and I were colleagues at San Diego State University, and she's a good friend of mine. So it's cool to use the book.
And I'm embarrassed to tell you what edition I studied from, but I think it's probably in 15th or 16th edition now. But anyway, it's a bit dry, but I'm telling you, the exam will cover material that you learn there. And then in the study guide, again, at the end, there are a few case studies at this end of this study guide. I mean, it's 163 pages. But the case studies, when I took the exam was based on those case studies. So if you worked through those, you know, you pretty much knew what you were dealing with, at least, and you had seen it before. So you weren't a stranger to the context itself. So anyway, back to this. Once you get your, let me find my little, sorry, y'all, I have a lot of tabs open. They were all in order when I started. So anyway, and then you are welcome to, and I've got volunteers lined up for coaching, for mentoring. I have current APRs who are willing to be your personal mentor through this process, or we can, you know, if you all want to do it as a group. Anthony is here today, Anthony King. Anthony is a very recent APR and a colleague of mine. And he just, was it last year, Anthony, or the year before that you went through the process?
January 22 is when I took the test and
Okay,
passed.
so just a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
And Anthony had a study buddy. He and another colleague went through the process together, and they would call me here and there with questions, or just, you know, for a pep talk or whatever. But we had a few meetings about it, and I am happy to help you. But I've also, you know, I'm one person that I think this is the best thing I've done professionally. There are others who agree, who are more than willing to help. So let me know if you want a mentor or a coach. And then if there's enough interest, we can put together a study session, you know, where we'll get a few of us who can, you know, maybe spend a couple of hours with the group and just kind of go over some areas where you might be having a problem. And usually the biggest challenge I find is in the plan itself, because you can get so twisted up in the plan that you start to think, wait a minute, is this an objective, or is this a strategy, or is this a strategy, or is this a tactic, or is this a tactic trying to do the work of a strategy and get the t-shirt? So those are the kinds of things that it's helpful to have a coach for, I think. So, and then once you feel good and ready and you've studied as much as you want to study, you schedule your exam, and they are done at a testing center. So there are people at the testing center. Some might be there to do their architecture credentials. Others might be taking an exam, their CPA exam, and you'll be there for your APR. It was so James Bond when I went in Richmond, Virginia. You had to take your sweater and your phone, and everything had to go in this locker outside, and you could take a pen, a pencil, an eraser, and a dry erase board. And that's what you could take into the exam with you. And you have, I think, Anthony, is it 4 hours or 3 hours, 45 minutes? And
that sounds about right. I'm not sure the exact, but
yeah.
It was enough time, certainly.
Yeah, it's enough time. But you know, you can, depending on how you study for things, you know, I'm one of those mnemonic device people. So when I was going through the ethics, you know, the code of ethics, I memorized them with the first letter of each ethic, with each part of the code, and just came up with this really stupid song in my head. And so when I went into and the same with something else on there, I don't remember what. But I went in and immediately on my dry erase board put the first letters of each of those codes of ethics, right? Each part of it on my dry erase board, and the other one, so that if I got stressed out or whatever, I at least had my reminder there. So again, it is, you know, you could take as much time as you want. You can get up, you can go to the bathroom, but it counts. You don't get any more time put back on that you don't spend taking the test. So it tells you at the end when you hit submit if you've passed or not. But what happens, Anthony, did it still do this? When I did it, when I hit submit, the entire screen went blank for like 60 seconds. And I nearly cried because I was like, oh my God, it didn't submit my test. I've lost everything. And then it says you passed. And so anyway, it was a big deal for me to do that. And again, as I said, you get the notice that you passed or did not pass, and you can retest if you need to later. There is a fee to retest. And I know people who are as far in their careers as they want to be, who it took 3 times to pass, you know, and others pass on the first time. So I kind of threw all of that in one big breathless explanation, but I just wanted to get it out there because really this little forum is for you all. This is for you to ask questions. I've got Anthony here, Blake is here, I'm here. And so with that, let me turn it over to you all and we will just start answering any questions you have. And thank you, Anthony.
You're welcome.
I had a question. I let my PRSA membership lapse. Like when I left and I just came back in July. So I saw for the renewal, I could sign up for membership and an application for APR. Is the application that first candidate portion?
I don't know what you're asking me. The application for the APR should be a separate application. Just, I could be wrong, but let me look back into that. But either way, you need to be a member of PRSA. I think by national, you automatically, you'll be a member of both national and the local chapter. And then when you sign in for that, double check. You should have 2 applications, one for membership and one for the APR.
Yeah, there's a slight discount on the application if you sign up for them both. And I was just trying to make sure that I wasn't signing up for a step that was too advanced.
No, the only thing you can sign up for is the opportunity to participate. That's the application to do it. That won't have you sitting for an exam right away, I promise. But also, I asked Corey to pay for it. You know, I'm assuming your VC will pay for that. Yes. And the exam itself.
Yes.
And the re-upping, you have to re-up Blake, how often do we re-up? Is it every 2 years? 3 years?
I think Blake had to drop off, but are you talking about re-upping the APR?
Yeah, you show credits for their continuing professional units, I believe, and you get them for mentoring, for service, for community and service, things like that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does the strategic plan have to absolutely be something that you've actually done at work, or can you create something that's similar and branch off? Because what I'm concerned that I don't have one that necessarily includes all of these things that need to be included.
It needs to be something that you had a hand in, that you either created or helped create. And I think the executive communications plan is perfect for you.
Okay, as long as it would, check all those boxes.
Absolutely, it would.
Okay.
It's very thorough, and we have metrics.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about collateral. You talked about showing the panel your collateral and things like that. So I have a plan that's a couple years old and I have some collateral materials, but like I didn't save everything that we produced or did. Like, how much collateral do I need to show?
What do you have that's what is it digital? I mean, can you find it online?
Yeah, so like the whole website and some of the social media that we built is still there and running and going. Yeah. But like some of the print materials we did and things like that, like I don't have copies of everything because I wasn't thinking like I need to save a copy of all this for certification. So
Anthony, what do you know about that?
So my experience was that it would not matter if you didn't have copies, like digital copies or physical copies of your work. If you have the website and the social media, I think that that's good to show, and then you can talk about the other pieces. I
Okay,
find that they would have been very forgiving. And I would reiterate what Anna has said prior, in that they want you to succeed. So they will understand that you don't have all of the pieces there physically with you.
And you can explain it too, you can say, in addition to these materials, we had printed brochures and the call to action was such and such. We had I don't know, we had
we had big
table
posters and we
table
had like
tents,
pull-up
posters.
banners and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that
and
I just
again,
don't have.
that's okay. You can
Okay.
describe them, but if you have some to show and then say, in addition, we did this, what you want to do is show your understanding, not that you can produce things tactically, but that was a means to an end. That was part of a strategy that was feeding up to an objective.
Okay. Well, one of my employees at the time is now the manager of the department, so I've already tapped her to dig through the archives and see what she can
Perfect,
use.
perfect.
But it's not going to be everything for sure.
I have one more question, if you all don't mind.
No, but that's why we're here.
Yeah, so to me, logically, it would seem like studying before you go in front of a panel of experts would be it would be just the best way to go about it. Is there a reason that you suggested the other way around? Because I would think it would be more helpful to have all of that fresh in your mind.
I will defer to Anthony because he just did it.
Okay.
Again, I think I did it my way because public relations was not a discipline in college when I went through.
Mhm.
So I was able to, I was really, I think you can't go wrong either way.
Mhm.
It probably would have benefited me to do it the way you're saying. In retrospect, I wasn't going to study unless they told me I needed to.
Oh, then that actually would
That
be
makes
then the
more sense.
opposite for me, where I was like, I know that I can study by myself. I know that I can digest a book and understand it, and I don't need that kind of a deadline was not the fear for me. The fear was just being in front of people. So I actually did do it the opposite.
Okay.
But not so much because I was afraid of that panel moment. But I had also just built out a timeline for myself, and I knew that I needed to jump in right away to make sure that I was staying on track. I don't think that I'm as quick of a reader as you are, Anne. So I needed the extra moment, the extra time to build into my schedule. But again, I would reiterate, and I'll comment to what you asked earlier, Jess, as well. Like, you don't need to be an expert. You need to show that you're learning and that you contributed and that you understand. So you're not proving yourself that you can do it. You're proving, how do I say this? You're not proving that you did it. You're proving that you can do it and you can improve and you can learn.
Okay. Thank you.
Kathy and Patrice, I should have, because I knew all of the other people. I didn't ask you to introduce yourselves, and I apologize. Would you mind sharing who you are? And then if you have any questions, we'd love to answer.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Sorry, I've been to yoga. It's late where I am, so
It's okay. Where are you?
I'm not dressed for work. I'm Kathy Cardno. I am actually coming at this from a different direction. I'm the editor-in-chief of Civil Engineering Online, which is an online magazine that's published by the American Society of Civil Engineers. So I am very curious about the APR and if that's something I would be able to do before I potentially moved into communications, if I was going to do that, or just moved up in my career. I work within a department of communications, even though I work for the digital magazine.
Got it. Well, welcome. It's very nice to meet you. Hi, Patrice.
Hello, everyone. I'm Patrice Smith. I'm actually a San Diego native, but I just returned. I worked for Congress for a few years and knew that once I left public service, I wanted to obtain an APR. So really interested. I worked for David Oates back in the day, and he was the first person I knew who had an APR. So really interested and glad to be here.
Wonderful. Welcome. Any questions you all have too that we can help with? And April, I see you. Hello.
I was curious about whether it was possible to do any parts of this before getting a job in communications, or if getting a job in communications needed to happen beforehand. Like I said, the magazine that I work for is within a department of communications, and like like everybody is interested in promotion, right? So
Sure.
moving up the ladder. So is this something that you can do beforehand or not?
I would caution and throw out the caveat that APR is usually for people mid-level in their communications career and above, so that you have got a strategic plan or a project that you've worked on strategically to share, because a large portion of your preparation is that questionnaire and the panel presentation,
Yeah.
which again is going to be all about a plan that you either participated in heavily or created and executed yourself. So if you have done that, then yes. If not, I would probably get some experience in strategic or in communications. But it never hurts to try. It's just it's not an entry credential. It's more a mid-career, a mid-career.
Right.
There is a certificate in public relations that they do now for those who want to get into straight communications, whether it's from journalism or other publications. So if you shoot me your email, Kathy, I'll shoot you that back.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
it might be a great entree for you.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have
a question about the exam. Oh, sorry, Kim, go ahead.
No, I just, that link that you provided, Anne, with the different steps. When you
Yes.
click on the study guide, it gives you the study guide for the APR and M. And I'm assuming that's a different test.
It is. Hold on. Here's one right here. I'm going to put this in the chat. This is the
Okay.
main one. I don't know why it does that, but here you go. Can you
Because I
check
just
this
don't
one?
have military.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
We
Thank
had
you.
a woman at the board retreat who is an APR, wasn't she April? She was an APR, but there's a big push in the military comms section for the APR plus M. So I was excited to hear about that. That one should work, Kim.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
So
And
jumping in just about the exam, yeah, I'm wondering what it's heavy on, if it's the history of the profession, if it's
Hold on, I
specific
can tell
segments
you.
of what we work on. So if you can shed some light on what we should be studying for and whether or not the study guide, I'm sure it outlines that. But if in your own words you could share, that'd be great.
Yeah, and for some reason it won't let me open the file, but if you go to the APR site at PRSA, they will tell you what the KSAs are that they are testing for. But from a percentage wise, history was about 2% of mine. And if you knew like who Edward Bernays was, what the Creel Commission did, and McCarthyism, that was pretty much what you needed to know about history. Mine was very heavy on strategy and planning and research also, and evaluation. Those were the big parts for me. Ethics was probably 20, maybe 15%, and those were really more scenario-like, I would say. The legal side of it, there was not a whole lot, because I mean, there were obvious things, but it was more legal questions wrapped up in the ethics part, if that makes any sense. It was wrapped in that blanket. Anthony, you just took it recently.
Yeah, I thank you. I was actually just flipping through the booklet to see if I could find it. April, all of the materials will say exactly what the percentages are, and it really is, I think, 30% on research. Therefore, of that knowledge base, and therefore there will be that percentage of questions on the exam. So it's not going to go heavy on history. We'll go heavy on the research and planning and the strategy part.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
I had a question about when it comes to the panel presentation. The project that I was planning on presenting on or working on the presentation for was something that I had not a lot of input on for this past year because, they just brought me in kind of late. And so I was able to help. And so I have the metrics from what was accomplished, but I
Mhm.
wanted to also include, it's an annual event. And so I will have a much stronger hand in next year's event. And so I was trying to figure out, and Anthony and Michelle have both talked me off the ledge. I was like ready to like bulldoze and like get this done really quickly. And now I'm like, maybe I should take my time. So that event doesn't happen until February, but I didn't know if maybe I didn't know if it was best to like try and do it with a hybrid. Like this is part of what I did for the past year, but this is the more complete, the lessons learned planned for the coming year, or if I should wait until I finish the event in February.
Is the event, the plan itself, is what is is the event the goal, or is the event helping you achieve a goal of something else?
Well, the event fits into a larger strategic plan just to like increase influence and attention. It's about the wetlands and some changes that we'd like to see in the public awareness of that as a UCSD entity, as opposed to, some people are confused. They think it's Audubon. Some people are confused. They think it's something else.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to change the perception of that and get some better media around it or better
And
press.
how are you measuring it? Do you need that event to happen to get your metrics to see if you did create awareness? Like, is attendance at that event one of the drivers of awareness that you've identified?
Yes. Attendance
I
at the
would
event
probably
and
wait.
registration for it.
Then I would probably wait. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree that if you're building that event to get if you're building up to that event to get some metrics, then it might be okay to wait. But I have an example actually from my process. So the small plan that I used in the written part, in the questionnaire essentially, was an ongoing piece as well, kind of what I think you're talking, similar to what you're talking about, Deborah. And when then I got to the presentation part, I had much more robust things to talk about. So it didn't hold me back by having to wait for those results. That might be slightly different, but I was able to sort of grow throughout the whole program, and the panelists understood that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have 3 questions. At a nonprofit, I tend to not have a large budget for research. If I were to show up and like show a plan that only had informal research conducted, would that go well?
Yes, because that's 99% of our profession. Yes, you're fine.
Okay.
The organizations that will actually fund the kind of research that we usually would, well, not usually, that we would love to see are few and far between. I mean, usually if you hire an agency to do the comms, that they will include that research as part of it. But as a nonprofit, and I know yours is not a huge one, you're fine without the formal research.
Okay.
But what you would do is explain, with a budget and with formal research, we would have asked this, and this, and then gone back afterward to see if we achieved our, what change we made.
Okay. Thank you. My second question is for a strategic plan for a smaller campaign, like just, I don't know, like a 3-month campaign where you do have the 4-step process. Does it have to be something more like larger, multi-year, or can it be no?
No, it just if it shows that you were strategic and you had a goal and then you set objectives for it, and there were strategies that had tactics applied to them, and you had your audiences, and your objectives were smart, and then you were able to measure and evaluate while it was going on and tweak as needed, and then measure at the end. You should be fine, and no one is going to judge a lack of a budget. Again, that's really common.
Okay.
And then if you don't mind me chiming in as well, I actually think it might be a little bit better to not focus on a huge, large plan. If you can pick apart and use a very small thing that you can really digest is, I think, going to be better for you.
Yeah. And one more addition there, Arturo, when you don't have something, point out that you didn't and why it would have been more strategic to have had X, Y, or Z. Or, Deborah, to your point, I won't be able to finish the actual metrics until this event, but we are assuming blah, 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 right? You're able to, as what you're trying to do is show that you understand the limitations, but that in a perfect world, this would be how it was done. But
Okay.
there is no perfect world.
Okay, thank you. And my third question, I don't need anymore, but I also want to make sure that I didn't believe a lie. So I heard that you can present a plan that you kind of like produce outside of your that you didn't implement, and it's outside of employment. That am I saying that right? Like that you can present, like, if I work here, I would do, and then like make a strategic plan and then present that, but you actually, that has nothing to do with your work. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
No.
no.
I'm not tracking.
So essentially like a make-believe plan, like it's not something that you actually, it's not your job, one, and two, like it's not something that you implemented, but you know the process,
No.
therefore you can create it.
No, because you're going to, to me, you wouldn't have any real world scenarios or limitations or challenges thrown your way. Or, as you know, in PR, there's really only opportunities rather than challenges, right? They're all opportunities in disguise. In a scenario that didn't exist, you don't have any of the obstacles you would have, and it would just probably not ring. It would seem a bit disingenuous to your panel.
Okay, I guess like kind of like a student project, I guess is what I was trying to say. Like how they get to like I don't know, make a plan for so and so and present the plan, even though that's not their employment, or it's not a plan that they're going to implement. It's just the idea of presenting that you know how to create a strategic plan. But I understand you're saying no.
This is more, again, it's more for mid-level career and above. So it's for experienced practitioners, and you're going to rely an awful lot on your experience in the exam. So if you need to rely on a plan that didn't exist, or that you're doing, that's not a real world plan, it would be probably better to wait a couple of years till you have more under your belt experience wise. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. I think I just heard it at some panel, and then I heard you say earlier today that that's not the case, so I wanted just to double check.
Yeah, you're not believing any lies.
I think I did, but now I'm getting the truth.
Nala, I see you've joined us. Would you like to introduce yourself, and then if we can answer any questions you have? Are you on mute? No. Okay, well, if you have any questions, or if you'd prefer to put them in the chat or reach out and email me afterwards, that's fine too. We're here to help. So any other questions?
I had two questions. This is Patrice. My first question, so I am mid-level in my career, but I was thinking about the potential of using my capstone project from when I did my master's. I had to write a strategic communications plan for a client, a real world client, who then was tasked with implementing it. So I'm wondering if that's something that I could use for the panel.
I think if there are metrics available to it, if you drafted the plan and you put measurement to it, and then, it was executed and you have results, then yes, I think so. Also, if you have the master's degree, what is it in?
It's in public relations and corporate communications.
Yeah, I think you will, this is almost a professional equivalent of that. I think you'll be fine. I think you'll be fine sitting for the test. I'm just saying, if you have the master's degree in the discipline, it's going to help you a lot in this whole process.
Okay, perfect. And then my second question. So I actually sat through a couple of these information sessions in DC, and I am certain that I do want to move forward. So I'm just wondering how I would be able to get connected with a peer mentor, or someone who already had the APR, just to help me walk through some of the process. Because I think for me, that has been the mental block for me.
Yeah. It's simple. Once you've done the application, do the application and submit the fee. And when you get your letter saying go forth, then reach out to me and I will get you a mentor.
Okay, perfect.
I have a nice little database of people who have volunteered just recently to be a part of our group of mentors and coaches.
Okay. And how long, once the application is submitted, how long does it take to receive the green light from the board or whoever approves it?
Anthony?
It didn't feel like it took long, exceptionally long. I would say within weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
how many years into the profession would you say is mid-level?
Oh, and I'm so glad you asked that. I wanted to clear it up. I don't mean mid-level careers. I mean mid-level time in the, it's not a management position. It's more mid-career is what I meant. Sorry, I was not articulating that as a professional communicator, but it's after 5, so I get a bye.
Anne,
Yeah.
this is Blake. I popped back in. I was just going to answer that question. I got engaged with the process at 5 years.
Yeah, and I think I was 5
able to
years
do
in
it.
too. And it used to be, I think 5 years was required, but I was probably 5 years in and realized I was doing an awful lot of order taking.
Yeah, but it was possible to get done. And in fact, I was even a little under 4 years when I started the process, but it's totally doable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would urge you not to be intimidated by it. There, if it were impossible, trust me, I wouldn't have done it. It is not a hurdle. It will engage you. It will energize you. It will poof when you're done. You're like, oh my gosh, do you feel different, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, this has always been my experience as I was going through the whole process, is that it changed the way that I looked at my job, my current job, and for the better. And it changed the way that I looked at my career. And it is an actual poof. It's like, oh my goodness, there's reason behind what we're doing. It feels really empowering.
Yeah. I started doing strategic plans in all sorts of areas of my life afterwards. And key messages, I remember one of my sons he was so worked up about breaking up with this girl. I sat down with him. I said, okay, here's your key messages. It's just funny. You'll find so many of these things that will bleed over into other areas of your life.
I want to jump in really quickly and just open up dialogue about how this does tangibly help progress your career. Can you shed some light on, in recent years, how you human resources departments or how hiring managers might be seeking this type of accreditation on resumes?
I can speak personally about that, April. Both prior to coming here and 3 years ago, I was at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, also as a CCMO. And in both positions, I was building an organization that didn't exist prior to my arrival. And both positions afforded me budget to hire a team that I needed in place or to promote from within, but I knew what I wanted and needed. And for the external candidates in the job description, I put APR preferred, and I got that. The people I promoted in place, I said, get your APR, I'll pay for it. You will grow. And that happened too. So, you know, Matt Nagel is my number 2. He went straight to the top of the pile when I got the applications. And trust me, for that job, I think I had about 160 applications. His went straight to the top because he had that APR. And it's because I know, oh, look at that handsome person behind you. It's because I know what they know and they know what I need. And that is so helpful. And I see that. You know, I did a consulting gig recently at an academic medical center, a university, and it was to help them build an organization, a communications organization. And we did an APR preferred there too, because there was enough, I could make a big enough case that for someone at the level they were hiring and what they needed that person to do, they needed somebody with that skill set and that accreditation. And sure enough, that happened too. So those are just my personal things, but you'll see it put in job descriptions more and more. So I hope that answers your question.
And just for building on what you said, I got my APR when I was at an agency. As I said, it helped me because I was not a PR major. And so it really helped me understand, like Anthony said, like why we're doing what we're doing. But it gave me the tools I needed to eventually go out on my own, because I felt confident enough in the process and why we're doing what we're doing. So depending on your strategy or where your goals are as a team or as a person, like where you want to be, for me, I felt confident going out when I had my kids and just doing my own little side practice because I knew what needed to be done.
Yeah. Yep. It's a game changer in my mind in this field.
April, this is somewhat anecdotal, but before I had this job, I was a finalist for another job. It was between me and someone else. And the person that they hired, that they told me the reason they hired him was that he had his APR and I didn't. So, I mean, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, A. B, I'm
Yeah,
glad
I'm glad it got you here with us. So.
yeah, I mean,
winning.
But B, I'm glad that it is trending more and that it is playing a role, you know, in hiring. So
yeah,
You know, I will agree with all of this. And actually, I want to give just a little bit of more insight of how it helped me in my career. I haven't moved positions at all since I've gotten my APR. But what it did is it made me more responsible to the area that I serve in my job, to essentially, for lack of a better word, a client. And now they trust me more and they turn to me more, and I'm able to impact greater change because of that. They're not looking at the APR at all, probably, but the way that I have grown, they are recognizing what it has done and are giving me more responsibility. And that's how I would say it has helped my career without having to change a job.
excellent. Thank you all so much. This is really helpful in just understanding how not only getting it will be satisfying for yourself just on a professional milestone basis, but you know, how it might affect your hireability in the future.
Excellent. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? I have put my email address in the chat. If you could please put in the subject line that you're an APR candidate, that will help me open the email. I get a lot, and I have to tell y'all something really funny about that. There's another woman at UC San Diego. Her name is Allison Buckley, and her email address is abuckley@ucsd.edu, and I'm albuckley@ucsd.edu. She's not in my area. She's over in facilities, and she got so many emails over the last 3 years that were addressed to me, usually pitches from people who didn't do their research, or they would have gotten their email to me. But she started just forwarding them, and then she'd say, hey, look at this guy, he's trying really hard. And then she'd start rating the pitch. And anyway, we wound up, we're having lunch next week, but we got to know each other just through these emails and cracking each other up and sharing photos of our kids. But all of that is funny in and of itself. But I got my very first jury duty notice here in San Diego, and I went first day of the new year in January this year. And I get down there and they start calling people to go and you know, listen, see if you're excused or not. There were 3A Buckleys. One was Allison, one was Ann, and one was Amy. And she was the other A Buckley. So it was just so weird. It was a small world. But anyway, I say that, but if you just put in your subject line that you're a candidate, that will help me stay organized, because I'm very excited to get you all through this process. So. All right, then. No
That's
other
great.
questions? Sorry, I wore you out with the anecdote, but it's 5:51 and we all deserved a fun laugh. So.
Yeah, no,
All
I think
right.
it's refreshing. Well, I'm gonna pinch hit for Blake here and just close us out and just say thank you so much, Anne, for offering your wisdom on how to acquire your APR and what the steps are to go ahead and do so. If anybody has any questions after the fact, please email us at info@PRSASDIC.org. And yeah, we'll be posting a recording of this on our YouTube channel for those who weren't able to join, and we would appreciate you sharing with your
Oh
colleagues.
my
who might
God,
be
they're going to
interested.
hear that story, aren't they? I am so sorry. I am so
Here, let me
sorry.
stop recording now.
Oh,